a long-time researcher and publisher of Jewish music, and I'm very happy to be on the radio program with Rabbi Sol Solomon on Dave's Gone By program, UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, my friends. Shalom, chaverim. Shalom, music lovers everywhere. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, and I am very, very excited to be talking to someone who knows so much about music. He's his own encyclopedia. In fact, he's put together so many books and CDs and record albums that he might as well have compiled an encyclopedia at this point. His name is VELVEL Pastornak, and he is one of the great authorities, especially on Jewish and Hasidic music from all over the country, all over the world. So it's exciting to talk to the man who put together the Jewish fake book. I'll explain what that is in case people don't know what a fake book is. Karaoke Jewish Favorites, which sounds amazing. Treasury of Yiddish Song, and even the Chabad Nigunim series of albums. So this man has more books and albums than I have yarmulkes, and he's with us in the neighborhood on the telephone all the way from Cedarhurst, Long Island. Welcome and shalom, VELVEL Pastornak. Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well, thank you for all that you have been doing to keep Jewish and Hebrew and not just liturgical, but cultural music in our sphere. But what people might not realize is it's not as if you grew up in like a Hasidic Orthodox household listening to all of that. I mean, you came from a pretty secular background and secular musical background, yes?
Well, if you can call it, I was born in Toronto, Canada. We didn't have too many Hasidim there, I can tell you the truth, the only reason I came to Hasidic music was because a rabbi, came to town once a year, beginning in the late 40s, and my father used to schlep me to hear him. He was a wonderful, not musician, but the creator of many of the songs which are still sung today in Hasidic life. And it wasn't a secular household. We were an Orthodox family, but absolutely not Hasidic, except for Hasidic music that my father loved very much. And so when I came to New York after high school, I gravitated in Brooklyn to a shtibel in New York, a small synagogue, which was of the Mozhitz family of rabbis. And I began my career as a Hasidic music consultant and music publisher.
Well, there was a little more to it than that. Wasn't your mentor like this beloved singing teacher alcoholic?
Somebody read one of my books. It was an interesting situation. I didn't read any music until I was 21. I was instinctively a musical guy who used to play the piano by ear and had no formal musical education. But one Passover, when I was in college, some boys came back from the Catskill Mountains where they had been busboys and waiters, to earn a couple of bucks. And they told me that they had seen a drunk being kicked out of a bar in Loch Sheldrake, New York. And for some reason, being nice, wonderful yeshiva students, they picked up this drunk, and they found out by talking to him that he was not only a drunk, but he was a double PhD in psychology and in music. And to make a long story short, they promised that they would do something for him when they got back to New York, and they helped him get a little studio. Cantus began to study music with him, and I heard about him, and I said, would you teach me the rudiments of music? And I wasn't interested in the vocal aspect, but just the actual theoretical aspect of music in general. And he said, fine, but on one condition. He would not charge me for the lessons, but I would have to go after each lesson and accompany him to his favorite bar in the Bronx, New York, where he would sit and tell me how much he loved Jews, drink rye, follow it up with milk because he had a bad ulcerated stomach, and that's what he needed. And so it went for 2 years, and he boned me up for the entrance exams to the extension department of Juilliard music, and then I was on my way to doing something in the field of Jewish music. Okay?
Well, yes. Okay. I mean, how did you avoid becoming a drunk yourself?
I can't stand alcohol.
That helps.
I could just sit there and listen to him. He was a wonderful human being. Interestingly enough, on Fridays, if we had a lesson, I couldn't go during the week, but mostly on Friday afternoon when there was no yeshiva, after the bar, or during the bar, he would let me know what time candlelight was. So I wouldn't desecrate the Sabbath and get home back to Yeshiva University in time for candlelighting.
Are you still Orthodox, by the way?
Yeah, I always was, and probably always will be, hopefully.
Probably. Well, how old are you? 80-something?
83.
Hey, mit Mazel, mit Glück, are you in good health? Halavai?
Thank you very much, yes.
Good. How long have you lived in Cedarhurst? Because so many of our listeners are still from Long Island, New York.
Since 1961.
Oh, my God. So everything was backwoods and fields back there in Woodmere.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the truth, I was working out here in a school called the Brandeis School, one of the earliest day schools in the country, and secretary came in and said, there's a house for sale on Derby Avenue. And it was, $25,000 for the house, 4.25% mortgage at the time, and I went from Crown Heights from $96 a month rent to $141, which included mortgage and taxes, and scared out of my wits. But we moved in.
And we're talking also going from a Crown Heights apartment to a 4-bedroom with a backyard and a kitchen and a front, a real house.
That's right. Yes. But it's a 6-year house. It's not a fancy house. They've built all around us these lovely homes, and we're still here. And I've had the business, except for 5 years, I've had the business in the house, the publication business in the house. We have an office here at home, and we work from here.
When you say you have an office and a business, what he's talking about is Tara, T-A-R-A, Tara Publications, and that's where people can order the dozens and dozens and dozens of collections and music books and discs and things that you have worked on.
Yes. And we have a large website called JewishMusic.com, which has been up there for about 15 years, and all our products are there. And interesting, we never meant it to be a business. It was just my love for Jewish music. I got started, and nobody else wanted to publish the material I was collecting, so I did it out of my pocket.
Well, tell the story of you weren't even thinking about doing this, and then you did somebody a favor who was having a chazanah.
Yeah, it was a rabbi's daughter from Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Oh, what wonderful name, Sheboygan.
Sheboygan. There was a rabbi named Barak there, and I got a call from the Rebbitzin, the rabbi's wife, and she said to me, you Mr. Pasternak? And I said, yes. She said, we have a problem in Sheboygan.
There are many problems in Sheboygan, I'm sure.
Sheboygan. She said, well, my daughter is getting married. I said, Mazel Tov. She said, but we went to the closest band leader to Sheboygan, which is Chicago, and asked him, do you know any Jewish music? And he said, of course. She said, well, what do you know? He said, I know Hava Nagil and Dayenu.
Yeah.
She said, my chassan, the bridegroom, is going to be bringing 60 young men from yeshivas in New York to this wedding. What are they going to dance to? Hava Nagil and Dayenu all night? We need good yeshiva music, the Hasidic music. I'm going to give you my daughter. So, daughter gets on by the name. The daughter's name is now Sylvia Barak Fishman, one of the guiding lights of Brandeis University, sociologist. Anyway, she says to me, Mr. Pasternak, we're desperate. We need some music. Could you send us a book, no matter what it costs, of music? I said, there is nothing in the book, no music in books. She mean it seriously? I said, yes. She said, then you have to do a mitzvah. Yeah, I'm always ready to do mitzvahs. I said, what's the mitzvah? She said, you'll have to write out music for me. What will you charge? I said, I don't charge for notating music, for a mitzvah. Tell me what you need, and I'll write it out. She gave me a list of 25 songs.
Oy, gewalt. That's hours worth of work, isn't it?
That's okay. So I sat down. Took me about 2.5 hours. I notated the music, and I sent it off to her. And a week later, came back a note with $25, 2.5 hours, $10 an hour. Wasn't too bad.
Not bad, yes.
1967. And with a lot of brachas, a lot of blessings, that it was a wonderful wedding, and the guys danced, and it was a real simcha, etc., etc. Good?
Right.
About 4 weeks later, I got a call from a woman in Tampa, Florida, and she said to me, Mr. Pasternak, we have the same problem in Tampa. I said to her, well, I didn't remember. I said, what problem? She said, we wasn't Sheboygan. We have the same problem in Tampa, no music. I hadn't kept a copy of the music.
Aye.
So this time I rewrote it.
You should have asked the first one to make Xeroxes. That would have been...
Yeah, well, I couldn't contact her. Anyway, I did that, put some chords in for a compliment, sent it off to her. Again, I got brachas. It was wonderful. And within a period of 5 weeks, I was sending music all over the country to band leaders in San Diego and in Texas and in Boston. Everyone was having a good time. I said to myself, somebody needed this music out there.
Well, absolutely.
So I sat down for the next year, and I put together a book called Songs of the Hasidim. There are close to 200 pages. I notated all of the music. And then I went around to publishers. They looked at me like I was crazy. One Jewish publisher sat with it for 10 minutes and said to me, it looks wonderful, but it won't sell 10 copies a year. Okay? So then I went to some non-Jewish publishers. One of them said to me, frankly, Mr. Pasternak, I don't understand the thing I've seen here. How many thousands of copies do you think you can sell the first year? One guy tells me I can't sell 10. The other guy says, how many thousands do you think will sell? Anyway, then I went the route of the philanthropist, and nothing. Gordish. Nobody wanted to hear about publishing Jewish music. So somebody said to me, you've done some recordings. Probably the cantors in America know your name. Maybe you should contact them. So I sat down, I wrote a letter, which began with, I'm delighted to announce, or I'm happy to tell you, I showed it to an advertising man, a friend, and he said, you know what they do with letters that says, I'm happy to inform you? I said, what? They put them in the garbage. I said, so? You're an advertising man. Give me a line. And I wrote a note saying, have you ever heard a Hasidic tune and hoped somebody would write it down? Question mark. Well, we've done just that! Exclamation point. I sent it out to about 800 centers all over America, Reform, Conservative, what do you call it? And I $7.50 for the book, including postage.
Wow. And so, so did you publish it yourself? Did you go,
yeah, well, I got 300 orders, free orders.
Yeah.
And I took that money and I ran to the printer and I said, go.
Oh, so
that was the start of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that kicked on. How long ago was that? Was it still the 1960s or 70s? Or
the first book came out in 1968.
Oh, my God. And that just, the floodgates opened at that point.
Well, the floodgates opened because after that I put the stuff into paperback and we went around to conventions and we did about 15 conventions a year, rabbis, cantors, social workers, etc., etc., and we put the music on the table and people got a chance to see something in print, and then we took on the recordings, and so it went from one to the other.
And it's still...
There are now about 150 books.
150 different anthologies that you have. Gewalt. What are some of the other titles that you have done?
The other titles are the Big Klezmer Fake Book.
Well, tell people that they might not know what a fake book is. It's a real book, But it's for people who don't know the music. Tell.
One of the biggest we have a major distributor that handles our stuff called Hal Leonard.
Oh, of course. The music publisher, yes.
Interesting how I'll give you a moment. We did a NAMM convention, one of the biggest music conventions of the year, 15 years ago in Southern California. The convention starts, International Music Convention. It starts on a Thursday at that time and ended on Monday or Sunday night. Anyway, we got there, my son and I, we had a booth that we had paid for several $1,000s, and it was all set up. We had the merchandise shipped in beforehand, and we opened up on that Thursday afternoon. It was absolutely wonderful. People started coming, the big day is Saturday there, but
you can't do anything
Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, we hung up a sign that said closed for Sabbath.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and we got such looks from people there. I mean, sugar, they come all the way, from Cedars, Long Island, spent thousands of dollars, and you close up for the biggest day. Anyway, we closed, and we showed up Sunday morning. The president of Hal Leonard, with the largest sheet music company in America, showed up, and he came over to the booth, and he said, "Young men," we were a little bit younger then, he said, "I've never seen anything like this at a convention, that somebody would close up on a principle." He said, I like your material. He said, "Would you consider being the Jewish library of our organization?"
Whoa.
I said, absolutely. And since then, I've had a wonderful relation with them. They sell our music all over the world.
I can imagine.
Japan and Norway and etc. aside from the United States. So, thank God we did not give up any of our, our beliefs, and it worked out well.
Now here's...
So, where was that before I digress?
Well, first of all, you were going to just explain...
fake book, yes. Yeah. A fake book, that, by the way, that's our biggest seller at Hal Leonard. Years ago, they used to put out fake books, which meant that there were two reasons. Number one, they didn't clear copyrights, so they were called fake books. Secondly, they didn't have the piano accompaniment that had only the right hand, and they put in some chords. So that's what I call, you had to fake with your left hand. You had to create your own accompaniment there. But now the genre is that there are all kinds of fake books. The Christmas fake book, we have the Ladino fake book, etc., etc. But aside from that, we have books of the Sephardic heritage. We have a book on the Jews of Calcutta, a book on the music of the Jews of Morocco. We have from Floria Goda, which is Bosnia and Herzegovina. And aside from that, we have a lot of specialized small books of special Hasidic music, Ger, Vishnitz, Bobov, etc., etc. And in the side now we have choral books, and we have instrumental books, all of Jewish music, all basically to service an area that has never been serviced before. There were books printed of Jewish music, but it was mostly of liturgical material.
Cantor,
have some liturgical material, but our concentration has been on the real folk area of Jewish music.
Now, a couple of two separate questions. First of all, in compiling these hundreds and hundreds of books, when you have songs that you have not written, right, but you're compiling, how do you deal with copyright? Do you just say tradition and you don't have to pay anybody? I mean, how do you deal with songs that were not your own, and yet you're trying to make money on these books?
Yeah, well, number one, I didn't try to make money on the books at the beginning, and if anybody called me and had a complaint, I tried to track down every group. The Hasidim weren't going to sue me. They would be most happy that I would put this stuff into print. Who else is going to do that and pay for it and bother with it? And, it happened twice, I think, that people called me and said to me, "Oh, you put my stuff in and you're not sending me copyright." I said, "You know what? I'll take it out. Would you rather it not be in there? I'm not doing it for money. I'm putting it in with your name and giving you the rights." The other thing is that most of the dead composers would not arise on their graves to sue me for putting the material into print and making it last. So if anybody had Has anybody had complained to me? Usual. I said, Gesundheit, the next edition that goes out.
I mean, well, and actually, by the next edition already, it would be 50 years, and under the old copyright laws, you'd be fine anyway. Come to
but the copyright has never been a problem.
Well, Mazel Tov. That's terrific. And you were never cheating. You were never trying to make millions and millions of dollars doing this.
No, I wasn't trying.
Yeah.
Look, while I was writing all of this stuff, I was teaching in 7 different schools.
Ay. I mean, that's
doing
wonderful.
This at night. People are, all people are drinking a beer and, watching television. I was teaching in Yeshiva University, in Touro College, and 5 different day schools. And, if this is Monday, I belong here because a music teacher couldn't get a job for 5 days a week. So we did this at night, and we did it during the summer, when we were off.
Now, let me ask you... Well, by the way, we're talking with VELVEL Pasternak, the great musicologist. Here's a question. It's one thing when you did that first compilation of Jewish music, of fairly well-known nigunim and things like that. But how do you then, I guess you are a researcher, you are an academic, go about finding Hasidic songs from Bosnia-Herzegovina, or from Croatia, or from Africa, or wherever? I mean, how do you get them?
Those weren't Hasidic songs. Those were Sephardic songs.
Okay, but how do you... They come to you.
Calcutta.
Yeah.
I had a rabbi from Philadelphia, from the Sephardic, who had been the rabbi in Magen David Synagogue in Calcutta, and he had sent me a tape of Pizmonim that they sang there, and I listened to it, and I had to turn it off. It sounded so bad.
Oh.
And then his daughter contacted me, and she sang this stuff for me, right? And it sounded much better. And we did a book of musicologist in Calcutta. I had a fellow from Morocco, very well-known guy, who sang for me all the Moroccan songs, and I notated them firsthand.
Wow.
So
Now,
all of this stuff was, there was no, I didn't get this material where I could just put it into a book. I had to notate it, write it, and arrange it, and edit it, get the text, everything else. It was a job.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
I don't complain because every day that I worked on this material, I loved it. So it was not stressful, and I just could not control myself from keeping it going. There's a sentence that says, "B'makom she'ein ish," when there is no one else around, you be that person, okay? So, and nobody else wanted to do this.
now can I ask you, you have 5 beautiful children, I believe. Do they help you, or is anyone being groomed to kind of, when you no longer can, take over the reins?
I'm dealing with it right now.
Oh,
no. I honestly don't know. I have one daughter who works with me a little bit, and maybe she'll take over.
okay.
It's right now. I've geared it so that everything has been done electronically, digitally, and it works by itself. Hal Leonard takes care of the shipping, and the internet is totally accessible and workable. Everything is downloaded from the internet. I don't have to do a thing. So right now it's okay.
That's good.
And right now I'm finishing off a book called Behind the Music.
Sounds like VH1. Yeah.
A book without any musical notes in it, because that seems to frighten a lot of people. They think it's a technical academic book the minute you have music in there. So I'm doing a book without music, and where I talk about certain songs, or what they call it, I'm going to give them a YouTube direction to hear the material on YouTube.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's almost like a great textbook if someone was teaching a course on the derivation of Jewish and Hasidic music.
Right. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Wow.
And I'm busy notating the music of a man, a colleague, who just happened to pass away by the name of Ben-Zion Schenker.
I've heard that name. I know he passed away. That's
one of the great singers of Hasidic music of the Mujitzer dynasty, and very well known in Orthodox Jewish circles. And he has many songs that are part and parcel of the Orthodox Jewish world. And I think that the people should know his music some of it is known even in conservative and reform. If I sang you a piece called Mizmor LeDavid.
Okay, that sounds... Yeah. No, that sounds familiar to me, yes.
You recognize Eisheskaya Meyimitza?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
That's his music, okay? So we're working on that right now. So we're trying to not retire in retirement.
I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, I have to say, growing up, I had copies of a couple of these albums called Chabad Nigunim. I remember them very well. They were on, like, colored vinyl, yellow and blue or something like that.
That's right.
And it was a bunch of Hasidic men. There was music. It wasn't just them in a farbrengen with no music. There was actually orchestral accompaniment. Were you instrumental in that series?
I did the first Lubavitcher recording on red vinyl. I remember they made us change the color of the vinyl because they said if red is a communist color.
For God's sakes. Yeah. That's hilarious.
But I wrote that up in my book, a book that I had originally put out called Beyond Hava Nagila, and the entire it was a real wonderful experience dealing with the Chabad guys.
Well, I think you said that they had the spirit and stuff, but it wasn't as easy as you would think to get them to be like on beat or rhythm or something like that.
You know what? They were used to singing at Farbrengen when they have 1,000 Hasidim there, and the Rebbe who is sitting up on the dais is expounding on the Torah, and then he points a finger to one of his men who starts a nigun. And everybody begins to sing, and when he wants to go back to expounding on the Torah discourse again, he points another finger, and they stop singing. And they think that they're starting and ending on a dime. And here comes this young conductor and says to them, you have to start together and end together. And they say, Meshugana, that's what we do all the time. And I said, no, if you had a tape recording of your Farbrengen and you listen to what's going on, you'd realize that you're not starting together and you're not ending together. So for 6 months of my life, I trained them to sing together, to start together, and to end together.
But it led to, I assume, a pretty popular series. I mean, there were like 16 volumes of...
Yeah, that I did only the first one.
Oh.
I had enough of an experience. I left the next to Seymour Silverman's and some other conductors, and I went off and I did the music of Bubov, and I did the music of Ger. So I worked with different people on different aspects of Hasidic music.
Now, not to get terribly controversial, but you also have done an anthology of the music of one of the best, most melodic of the songwriters of the more modern era, Shlomo Carlebach, who was great. But
I did the 2 books of Shlomo. His first book was done by an arranger who worked with Harry Belafonte, and I did the second, and I did his anthology, which is available now. The Shlomo Carlebach anthology, and I had to urge him to do the second and the third books. He was going to have it done by professors in Toronto. After a year of kratzing around with him, I said to him, "It's not getting done. Let me do it." And so I did it with his permission. I paid him royalties, and we put it out. And I think that the books that we put out helped to spur his music onto all parts of the Jewish world. There's one thing if you have a recording, there's another thing if you have something in print, because if something is in print, then a musician or somebody, a layperson, can use it. It's very, very difficult to sit down, I know from experience, and listen to a recording, then have to write down the music. You have to be pretty good at that. And people don't have the patience to do that. But we made it available to all the cantors all over the world, and you have now Friday night Carlebach services that are done from Israel to Australia to South Africa, and there are 2 contemporary singers that have made it in the Jewish world in the last century. One of them is Shlomo Carlebach, and the other is Debbie Friedman.
I thought you were going to say Sol Zim or something like that, or
no, I
Yossi
wasn't going to say Sol Zim. I've done his books also.
Well, but the thing about, not to belabor it, but what do you say to people who say that Carlebach should be now shunned and ignored because of all the allegations against him?
You know, when you read in the Torah, you have two portions that follow each other. One is called Achrei Mos, after the death, and the second one is called Kedoshim, holy people. Shlomo Carlebach has become a holy person after he died. And the allegations, I mean, those people who won't give up on the allegations, his music is sung from the most Orthodox to the most Reform. His has been the contemporary music that has lasted, that is known by Jews all over. He is a fellow who wrote melodies that people can sing. You have to watch my shul, an Orthodox shul, when they have a Friday evening Carlebach Shabbos. It's unbelievable. Everybody is singing. Eyes are rolling in their heads are going from one side to the other. Everybody's into it. He is an amazing personality. What the allegations are, you can forget about the allegations already. We're talking about his music now. By the way, he made more Balei Tshuva. He made more people return to Judaism.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, he did. But it's the same, sort of the same argument that Leonard Bernstein probably made when he wanted to conduct Wagner, or maybe it was Zubin Mega or somebody who wanted to do Wagner at the Israeli Philharmonic. And ultimately, is Wagner a holy person now that he's dead?
No, but Wagner wasn't writing liturgical music that Jews sang in a synagogue.
That's true.
The business with Wagner and what do you call it? Wagner was an anti-Semite.
Well, yes.
We know that. And he wrote anti-Semitic art. So, and Jews have a relationship. They have the knowledge that his music was being played in the concentration camp when the Jews were being bayoneted and burned in the crematoria. You know, so there's something totally different. Carlebach, I mean, he was accused
of sexual, of almost borderline rape, which is not very nice, you know. So I don't know if you can completely disregard the allegations and just say, he's dead now, his music is holy, he brought a lot of people to Judaism, and let's just, there won't be an asterisk by his name every time he's mentioned in a...
I don't think there'll be an asterisk.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
All I can tell you is that there's a very, very famous Rebbe in Israel called the Amshinover Rebbe. And whenever Shlomo came to Israel, he sat at the right-hand side of this great tzaddik, who insisted that he sit there, right beside him. So, look, it's a moot point now.
Oh, I mean, well, kind of.
I don't think people are talking about it except people who want to drag up, It's long gone. He died a number of years ago. His music is being sung, and people are not looking for the improprieties in the music.
Now, let me ask you another question about somebody else who's famous beyond the Jewish music world, but in a weird way, Ed Sullivan forced you to change your name for a while. Not himself. Am I wrong on this?
Who changed me?
Your name. Because you're VELVEL Pasternak. That's her name.
No. It was the headmistress of this Brandeis school where I was teaching. I was teaching at the time when I took the interview. She heard my name. She took a look at my papers that I left on her desk, and she said to me, "Is that really your name?" I said, "Yes." She said, "That's terrible." I said, "What do you mean it's terrible?" She said, "That's awful." In 1959, there was a ventriloquist on national television named Ricky Lane, and he had a dummy sitting next to him, and the dummy's name was VELVEL. Now I ask you, you show up in a fancy day school in Woodmere, Long Island, where you have 100 children and a faculty of a wonderful faculty and 2 psychologists on the faculty to take care of all of the problem children, and you have a name like VELVEL, and there's a dummy on television named VELVEL. can't go. She said, young man, if you want to teach here, you'll have to change your name. And so for 5 years, I became William.
So, and actually, I think you mentioned in a previous interview that ventriloquist was still alive. He died about 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
So there's nothing you need to worry about. VELVEL, from now on, you can keep that. You don't have to use William again. It's VELVEL.
That's right. So that was the story. That's how I became William. And I still cringe at it, but it's okay. Everybody knows me as VELVEL.
So many Jews have had to change their names for different reasons to get into the entertainment industry.
You know what? I just did for this book, I just did a listing of the famous conductors, composers, and what do you call it? I mean, people that we wouldn't even suspect were Jewish.
Oh, like who?
Pierre Monteux.
Okay, I haven't heard of him, but okay.
Otto Klemperer.
Wait, Otto Klemperer was... So Werner Klemperer also, of course, he was playing.
Yeah. But
the son,
okay. Andre Castellanets.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I have a whole listing of them that I found that are absolutely Jewish. And then the composers and the violinists and the pianists.
Michael Tilson Thomas, of course. He's made a big deal of being Jewish.
Tomaszewski.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly.
But it sounds so wonderful, Michael Tilson Thomas, you know. It's very goyish.
It gets you in the best country clubs, what can I tell you?
That's right.
So, we are just about to wrap up our wonderful discussion with VELVEL Pasternak. Before I give you your last question, though, is there anything you really want to, besides Tara Publications and Tara.com, is there a particular book or record that you want to specifically push right now? Something that we should be on the lookout for coming out?
Yeah, the book called Behind the Music will be out in about 2 months.
Oh, so you haven't even published it yet. So, oh boy, I want to read that so much. That sounds...
Taking it off now. And I have a wonderful book that most people don't pay attention to. It's called The Great Jewish Sing-Along. And it's a wonderful folk song book. It has all the music in there. And that has on each page with the song, in case people don't know what the melody is, it has a YouTube address. And you can just click on the address and you'll get the song, so that some people have difficulty if they have a piece of music in front of them knowing exactly, they can't play it exactly as it's written. So I've done this. It's called The Great Jewish Sing-Along.
Now, can I ask you...
It has Yiddish material and Sephardic material and klezmer material and Hasidic nigunim, etc., etc. So it's a composite book. And I also have one called The Big Jewish Songbook, which has been one of our bestsellers in the last year and a half.
And they were all through Hal Leonard, right? Hal Leonard Publications?
Hal Leonard has them all, and they're all on our Jewish website. But they're all available in Hal Leonard.
Now, let me ask you, I'm kind of curious. So you've been steeped in this kind of music for so many years, but do you listen to pop, rock and roll, radio at all? Or is that so totally...
I listen to classical music. I don't listen to... I don't listen to pop, and I don't... Number one, I'm so busy writing the music all day that I haven't got a chance to listen to
I hear you. Okay.
I listen to the radio, I listen to politics when I have a chance, and I listen to classical music. But the pop music, I'm a little bit lost on it, on the hip hop and on the. I just.
Well, even back in the '60s and '70s, were you listening then, or even then you weren't listening to?
Yeah, I was listening to Peter, Paul, and Mary, to the folk songs, Theodore Bickel, and the what do you call it? All of
the Tom Paxtons and the early Dylan and people like Kingston Trio, those kinds of folks. I got it. So, last question for the delightful VELVEL Pasternak. Do you have an all-time favorite Jewish song or a nigun?
Do I have an all-time favorite?
Yeah, like one that's just your favorite of all time, or one or two of them.
Well, I mean, I have a couple of nigunim that I love, but if I told you what they were, I mean, they're wordless, so it...
Well, you'd have to sing them for us, wouldn't you? A little bit, a bissel.
Yeah, there was some beautiful waltzes written by a Moshe Rebbe, that are just absolutely delightful. They've been done orchestrally by some groups at some beautiful. The Mojitzer Rebbe that I'm talking about, Rabbi Sol Tau, was instinctively a musician. Could not read a note of music, but he wrote hundreds of melodies, which are absolutely superior and superb. Some of them have been done with orchestral arrangements, etc., etc. But if I have one favorite, I have hundreds running around in my head. Be difficult to say.
Well, we appreciate your singing one of them at least, and we certainly appreciate your compiling hundreds, and at this point probably thousands, of Jewish and Hasidic songs from all over the world, and that you continue to do this, and that your legacy goes on. Well, you should live to 120, but then it should go on past like 121 with someone else.
Thank you very much. Your bracha is well taken. I appreciate it.
And shalom, and thank you so much for being with us. Shalom.
You're more than welcome. Great day.
You too. Bye-bye.